Students don't need flattery, they need usefulness. Segment by intent, stage, and behavior to deliver communication that feels aligned, not automated. Today we go through another O.R.E report and see what raw findings are ready to forge.
You are listening to the Innovation Forge, the #1 podcast on adaptive enrollment management, exploring the data, marketing, and strategy that fuels higher education. Here's your host, David Dysart.
O.R.E, Signal and Noise, Communication Preferences of Prospective College Students. On the Forge floor, we've spent the last decade telling each other that email is dead, that Gen Z only lives in the DMs and TikToks, that the inbox is just slag, and the real heat is all on the phone. The O.R.E makes another case, though. Across multiple national surveys from 2019 to 2025, prospective undergraduates consistently name email as their #1 preferred channel for hearing from colleges. And it's often by a wide margin. Roughly 3/4 of seniors say email is how they want information, and most of it is checked daily or at least multiple times a day. Texting is powerful, yes, but to think of as more of a supplement than a replacement. Postal mail stubbornly refuses to die, especially for earlier stage students and first-gen families. Phone calls sit at the bottom of the preference stack, which is comforting as someone who dislikes phone calls as much as I do. At the same time, expectations have hardened under the heat. Students now expect responses within 24 to 48 hours to inquiries. Too slow can just eliminate a school from consideration. Their attention span is also short. They skim, scroll, and swipe. Most do not read every word of your carefully crafted email, and frankly, many never click. And that's even if you are writing emails with crafted call to actions. Personalization in their minds is relevance, not mail merge tricks. High, preferred, and students in student major learn and grow here. These are just table stakes, not a differentiator in any way. The O.R.E here is not a new channel to chase. It's a recasting of roles. Email as the furnace, SMS as the hammer blow, websites and social content as the mold, and then postal email as a keepsake. The central observation is that the problem in 2025 isn't that students won't listen. It's that we're often striking with the wrong tool, at the wrong time, and for the wrong message. So let's get to the raw findings, ready to forge. Reading the signal. If we step back from the dashboards and look at the pattern in the middle, several signals emerge. 1. Email never left the furnace. Students treat college email as a serious channel. They associate it with official information, things like deadlines, applications, aid, next steps. They check it daily because college outcomes just matter. That's very different from how they treat brand marketing or spam. The signal. Email isn't broken. Our use of email is. It's too frequent, it's too generic, too dense, and just too late. 2. Text is the hammer strike, not the anvil. Texting delivers near universal reach and almost comically high open rates. Students overwhelmingly say they are opening to receiving texts from colleges, especially for time-sensitive alerts. These are acceptances, deadlines, and event reminders. The signal. Text shines when the student needs to notice and act quickly. It's now where they want complex explanations or long narratives. SMS is your act now hammer, not your policy manual. 3. Postal mail is still a meaningful artifact. A third of seniors and more younger students still name postal mail as a preferred channel. First-gen students and parents often rely on physical pieces as a shared reference point in the household. The admit packet, the view book, the scholarship letter, these become emotional artifacts. The signal. Print is no longer the main forge, but it is still a powerful mold for identity and belonging when used sparingly and intentionally. 4. Speed has become a competitive weapon. Half or even more of students now expect schools to respond within 48 hours, and a sizable chunk expect within 24. Slow responses aren't neutral. They're actively damaging brand perception and can knock you out of the running altogether. The signal. Speed to response is now a frontline enrollment KPI, not an operation nicety. Response lag is yield leakage in disguise. 5. Attention is the scarcest resource in the shop. Students skim emails. They scroll feeds, and they just bounce from task to task. Most say they either skim college emails or read without clicking through. Many read on phones during micro moments, between classes, on the bus, and even at work. The signal. In an 8-second world, the subject line, preview text, first sentence, and first screen on mobile are your real message. Everything else is support material. 6. Personalization is now about usefulness, not flattery. Only a small fraction of students care about superficial personalization. This could be things like their name in the subject line. What they want is relevance to their interests, the stage, and their questions. Segment by intended major, grade level, visit status, and behavior, and communicate accordingly. The signal. The real craft is aligning message, moment, and student context, not spinning new variants of, we think you'd be a great fit. Evidence in the O.R.E. Here's what the data, across multiple studies from 2019 to 2025, tells us in more granular terms. Channel preferences. Email remains dominant. Around 70 to 77% of high school students across grades identify email as their preferred channel for college information. Even late in the funnel, about 77% say email is still their top way to receive updates. Texting is a strong secondary channel. Roughly 1/3 of seniors list SMS as a preferred channel. And some surveys show 97% and more are open to texts from colleges. Texting now ranks among the top 5 most influential resources in the search process. Postal mail is surprisingly resilient. About 31% of 12th graders say postal mail is a preferred way to hear from colleges, often higher amongst 10th and 11th graders. Parents show even stronger desire for consistent, often weekly, updates. Phone calls are least desired. Only around 15 to 18% of students list calls as preferred. Many perceive unsolicited calls as intrusive or anxiety-inducing. First-gen students are more receptive than their peers to texts, calls, and mailed letters, often relying more heavily on direct outreach and physical artifacts as they navigate an unfamiliar process. Engagement and responsiveness. Email usage is high. Around 83 to 88% of students check email at least daily, and over half check at multiple times a day. Only a small minority check less frequently. Texts dominate attention and response time. Studies report about 98% of open rates for SMS versus about 20% for marketing emails. Institutions that integrate texting often see improved inquiry engagement, higher reply rates, and measurable bumps in yield. Responsiveness expectations have tightened. In a 2025 student survey, about 53% expected a response within 48 hours of an inquiry, up sharply from 2 years prior. More than 15% expect a response within 24 hours. About 85% say a quick reply improves their impression, and for over 40%, it makes the school a top contender. Conversely, 77% say a slow or absent replies hurt their impression, and about a quarter say it eliminates the school from consideration. Timing and cadence. School day phone restrictions matter. Around 65% of students either can't use phones during class or are limited to after school hours. A non-trivial share attend schools banning phones outright during the day. Mid-morning texts often aren't seen until late afternoon. And email fatigue, it's real. In 2025, only about 29% wanted at least weekly emails, a slight decline, while more students preferred emails once a month or whenever the school has something important to share. Only about 8% wanted more than one email per week. The clear preference is quality over volume. Channel trade-offs exist. In email volume decrease or become more focused, student openness to SMS and physical mail for specific purposes like deadline, acceptances, key reminders increases. Attention and content consumption. Gen Z operates with a functional attention span measured in seconds, not minutes. They multitask across devices and require immediate hooks to stay engaged. In email, only about 45% say they both read and click college emails. 28% read but don't click. 24% just skim. A share simply ignores or deletes them. Around 2/3 primarily read emails on their phones, not laptops. mobile optimization, this is concise copy, scannable formatting, fast load, dark mode compatible, is no longer optional. Short-form video, student-generated content, and interactive elements like chatbox or texting polls outperform long, dense pieces in drawing and sustaining attention. Personalization expectations. Only about 15% of students rate "Hi, first name" style personalization as very important. The top-ranked quality is that the email is actually useful and relevant to them and their stage. Around 56% prefer personalized web content, and more than 40% value sites that let them filter or customize content by interests. Think majors, activities, etc. About 25% are interested in personalized videos, with that interest higher, around 36%, amongst student athletes. Students like opt-in personalization, where they feel in control of what they receive. Many are wary of feeling tracked by aggressive behavioral targeting, even as they reward messages that clearly reflect their interests and past interactions. The O.R.E is consistent here. Students are not allergic to communication. They're allergic to irrelevant, slow, and poorly timed communication. Implications for the Forge floor. For enrollment leaders, this research doesn't demand a brand new Forge. It demands retooling the shop you already have. 1. Define clear roles for each channel. Stop treating every channel as a generic blast pipe. Instead, email should be the depth, the context, the formal next steps and documentation. Use these for application instructions, financial aid explanations, event confirmations, and substantive updates. Text. This is attention and action. Use for deadline nudges, you've been admitted alerts, event reminders, quick check-ins, and two-way Q&As. Postal mail equals meaning and memory. Used for admit packets, scholarship notifications, milestone touchpoints, and parent-facing materials. Phone and live calls are the high-touch moments. Used strategically for admitted student yield work, complex financial aid conversations, and first-gen mentoring. When each tool has a purpose, your communications feel intentional instead of just noisy. 2. Make speed to response a core metric. Treat inquiry and application follow-up as a time-sensitive process, not a "we'll get to it by Friday" queue. Set an internal standard. Same day or less than 24-hour responses on business days for new inquiries and key questions. Monitor the median response time and build it into counselor, call center, and chatbot SLAs. Use automation for that first spark, maybe confirmation, basic info, then route to humans for personalization where it matters. Speed signals respect and competence. In a tight market, that signal is part of your value proposition. 3. Shift from more communications to better sequences. Your students are telling you that one meaningful, well-timed message beats 3 generic ones. Reframe your strategy from how many emails per week to what sequence of touches across email, text, web, and mail best serves a student from inquiry to enrollment. And what is the minimum effective dose of communication to keep them confident, informed, and engaged? For example, inquiry to 7 days post-inquiry. Day 0 could be an instant email confirmation plus resource links. Optional, "we got your question" text. Day 2 to 3, maybe a short, major, or interest-specific email. And day 5 to 7, a single SMS pointing back to the most relevant next step. 4. Design for the 8-second scan. Assume your emails will be skimmed on a phone, between classes, with noise in the background. Make the subject lines do real work. This is benefit plus specificity, not just brand name. Use preview text to reinforce the core message. Put the primary value and call to action in the first screen. First 2 to 3 sentences and a clear button or bolded link. Use bullets, short paragraphs, and headings. If it looks like a wall of text, it will be treated like one. The goal. If a student only sees your subject line, preview, and first 3 lines on mobile, they should still understand what's in it for them. 5. Build simple, meaningful personalization. You don't need a fully AI personalized portal to make progress. Start with stage-based flows, junior versus seniors versus admitted versus deposit, interest-based segmentation, intended major, extracurriculars, athletic interest, honors, etc. Interaction-based triggers, visited campus, opened but didn't click, started but didn't submit an application. Example, Since you told us you're interested in engineering, because you visited campus last week, here is more about residence halls you toured. As a first-generation student, you might find these stories from our current first-gen scholars helpful. This kind of personalization signals that we see you without feeling invasive. 6. Pay special attention to first-gen students and families. The O.R.E is clear that first-gen students often rely more on direct outreach, physical mail, and human voices. Benefit from explicit guidance and mentorship-like communication. On the Forge floor, this suggests dedicated first-gen communication tracks with more explanatory content and invitations to connect with first-gen students or staff. More intentional use of postal mail and phone alongside email and text for this segment. Parent and guardian communications that are plain language, translated where needed, and focused on what happens next. 7. Treat parents as a parallel audience, not an afterthought. Parents and guardians often want more frequent and detailed updates than students do. While students ask for whenever you have something important, families may prefer weekly or bi-weekly touchpoints. The implication: maintain a separate parent-guardian email cadence with key dates and deadlines, links to financial aid and cost tools, tips on supporting their student through each stage. This turns families from passive observers into allies in your enrollment work. Move to test. Here are concrete experiments you can run in the next cycle to start reshaping your Forge. 1. 30-day communication audit by channel. Pull a sample of students in one recruitment segment, maybe in-state seniors. Map every touch point they receive in 30 days across email, text, mail, and phone. For each touch, label the channel, primary purpose, maybe information, nudge, invitation, celebrate, reassure, and stage the alignment. Does this make sense right now? Look for redundant messages across channels, long stretches of silence after key actions, and channel role confusion. Texts carrying dense information, emails used for single word nudges. Then design a revised ideal 30-day sequence and A/B test it against your current plan. 2. Response time challenge. Pick a clear metric. Response time to new inquiries from your request for info form or main admissions email. Run a 4-week sprint where your team commits to less than 24-hour response on business days. Layer in an instant automated acknowledgement, email plus maybe an optional SMS, and a human follow-up that adds one personalized element. Maybe this is major, location, or question type. Track the open and reply rates, conversion to application or visit, and any movement in student satisfaction feedback. Use this as a proof of concept for investing in staffing, workflows, or chatbots that maintain fast response at scale. 3. Hammer and furnace, pairing for deadlines. For one critical deadline, maybe application or deposit, send a succinct deadline email 5 to 7 days prior with a clear subject, application due January 15th, 3 steps to finish, 3 bullet steps, and a single primary CTA. Follow with a short text 24 to 48 hours later. Hi, name. Quick reminder, your application to college is due tomorrow. Finish here, with a short link. Questions? Reply here. Compare completion rates against previous cycles or a control segment that only receives the email. Use these insights to standardize paired email and SMS plays for key actions. 4. 8-second email redesign. Take 2 of your highest volume campaigns. Maybe this is an inquiry, nurture, or an admitted welcome. And rewrite the subject and first 3 lines to clearly state what this is, why it matters, and what the student should do next. Turn the body into a scannable layout. 1 main call to action, 2 to 3 supporting bullets, and an optional dig deeper link for students who want more. Run an A/B test measuring open rates, subject line impact, click through on primary action, and click density. Are students using that extra link? Let the data guide where to trim or expand the content. 5. Lightweight personalization pilot. Choose a manageable segment. This could be prospective nursing majors, and create a 3 email mini journey. Nursing at your institution, how our students learn and work, where our nursing grads go next. Talk to a current nursing student. Personalize each email by mentioning their major in the subject line and opening line, featuring program-specific outcomes and stories, offering a call to action tied to the field. This could be a nursing-specific information session. Compare the engagement and application rates to a similar segment receiving your standard general messaging. Blueprint breakdown. A final tempering of the metal, what must be carried from the forge. Before we close the furnace doors on this issue, we gather the essential pieces. These are the 5 elements, the alloy mix, that enrollment leaders should walk away with. Each is a principle forged from the ore of the research and ready for practical use. Email is still the furnace. Students rely on it for official, detailed, and stage-specific information. Your challenge isn't finding a new channel. It's refining how email is crafted, timed, and structured. 2. Text is the hammer strike. Use SMS sparingly and purposefully for action-triggering moments. This is deadlines, confirmations, reminders, where immediacy matters more than depth. 3. Speed is now a competitive edge. A response delayed is confidence eroded. Institutions that consistently reply in 24 to 48 hours gain ground in perception, trust, and enrollment probability. 4. Relevance outperforms personalization theater. Students don't need flattery, they need usefulness. Segment by intent, stage, and behavior to deliver communication that feels aligned, not automated. 5. Cadence is a craft, not a calendar. Quality over quantity wins. Fewer, clearer, better timed touches across channels create more momentum than a high-volume blast strategy. Closing the mold. The blueprint clarifies what the forge must hold in the coming cycle. Intentional channel roles, disciplined timing, relevance at the core, and a response engine that signals real human attention. When these elements are tempered together, communication stops feeling like noise, and it actually starts working as a strategic instrument. The metal is shaped, the path forward is clear. Let's return to the forge. And an open question. As we lean harder into automation, segmentation, and channel orchestration, we walk a fine line. At what point does helpful personalization start to feel like being watched? And how will that line move for the next wave of students? In other words, how do we preserve the feeling of a real human attention, the artisan at the anvil, while using tools that can easily slip into mass-produced algorithmic noise? That's not just a technical question. It's an ethical and strategic one. Let me know in the comments. Forge notes. The signals in this OR are not subtle. Students are telling us, in percentages and click patterns and ignored subject lines, what they need. Fewer, better, faster, clearer, more relevant touches. The forge work now is not to chase the next shiny channel, but to temper the ones we already wield. Email, text, web, mail, so each strike lands with purpose. Every signal starts as raw ore. The work begins when we strike. Let's forge something extraordinary together. Before you leave, I do want to mention the Colograph Codex. This is a custom GPT that I put together trained on psychological principles, behavioral economics, behavioral science, and general marketing, sales, and that kind of knowledge. I have found it extraordinarily helpful in taking those first draft emails together and understanding from these human perspectives and these principles how to communicate in crafting affinity, trust, and action in student communications. I am going to link to that in the show notes. Please give that a try. I also have some planned videos and workshops coming up where I use it as examples for building some communications. I've loved using it and understanding better the psychology of creating a narrative around these emails. So I hope you enjoy it too. Thanks for joining me today. Let's forge something extraordinary together. Source OR. This report was forged from a blend of R&L's 2023 E expectations, the multi-year trends in how college-bound students research institutions and which channels they prefer, EAB 2023 and 2025 student communication preferences, large-scale surveys on channel preferences, email habits, and the myth of email is dead, School Finder Group 2025 Prospective Student Communication Survey, detailed insights on response time expectations, email cadence fatigue, and channel trade-off. Modern Campus and R&L Texting Research, 2019 to 2023, data on SMS open rates, student attitudes toward texting and effective texting strategy. RHB and Insight Higher Ed Analysis, institutional perspectives on digital engagement gaps and the practical challenges of updating admissions communications. Keystone Higher Ed Gen Z Attention, insight into how quickly students shift focus and what captures attention in the first seconds. NACAC in related context. Background on broader admissions communication practices and their evolution since 2019. See the notes section of this podcast for links and more information. If you enjoyed today's episode, please grow the guild by rating and reviewing the Innovation Forge podcast or sharing it with a colleague who needs to hear about these creative crossovers in education. The best review or comment every month will get an ebook of my book, of course. Particularly great ones will also be featured on future episodes. Thank you so much for joining me in the workshop today. Remember to strike true, and let's forge something extraordinary together.
Glowing like a furnace door, everybody shouting, wanting more. They said the fire moves somewhere new, but the old heat still pulls us through. Names on lists, lines in steel, every message got a weight to feel. Swing too fast or strike too wide, you lose the shape you meant to find. It's not the tool, it's how it's used. Not every spark is meant to move. You listen close, you watch the flame, and metal tells you when to change. Strike the right channel at the right time, heat it slow, let the signal shine. Not every blow, not every sound. Some words land, some fall to ground. If you want it strong, if you want it true, you don't shout steel, you shape it through. Short lines flash like hammer hits. Don't forget, and this is it. Phone lights up, then fades to black. Attention's quick, but it snaps right back. Letters still sit on the kitchen table. Quiet proof that this is real. Hands pass paper, families read. Some things hold what screens can't keep. Every step's a different need. Every moment bends the speed. Too much noise, the meaning cracks. Too much silence, you lose the track. Strike a right channel at the right time. Email burn steady, text cuts fine. Speed is pressure, trust is weight. Wait too long and you close the gate. If you want it strong, if you want it true, you don't chase steel, you see it through. They're watching clocks, they're counting days, reading signs and subject lines. They don't want louder, they want clear. They don't want more, they want here. A human hand behind the flame, a real response, a knowing name. Not dear student, not dear all, but we see you. That's the call. One strike too many, the metal bends. One strike too late, the edge just stands. This is craft, not volume play. Less is more when relevance guides your feet. When the noise fades, what remains is shaped by care, not just by gain. If you want it strong, if you want it true,